I'm supposed to give you 10,000. What got to me, presumably, let's say it's 4,500. So there's a shortage of 500. Now, let's say I distribute 4,500 to the market, and I'm only able to collect 3,000. Now, you are saying that I should pay the market operator 100%. Where am I going to get it? Because I can only pay you from what I get from the business. So we need time to both close up the transmission losses and at the same time close up the distribution losses. So we need a reasonable time to meter the customers, get correct addresses, because the entire system, you must understand that while the world is moving on, Nigeria did not invest in power for almost how many years? Over 40 years. So what we are doing now, we should have done it years ago. So we need time to stabilize the market, do investment gradually, because cost of capital is not cheap. The money is not out there. Banks have tried. The privatization of power was designed to encourage foreigners to come and invest in Nigeria. But nobody came to invest. We did all this investment ourselves.
Why do you think there were no takers from outside the shores of the country?
Because they will not be takers until they believe there is stability enough to guarantee their capital. If today I'm called upon, for instance, to come and invest in Niger or to come and invest in Congo, I have to be sure, I have to be confident that whatever I invest there is protected and it will return profit on my equity. And it takes time to convince a businessman to invest in this kind of venture. At first, you must also understand that the power privatization started as way back as 2005, culminating into the capacity of this current administration to have been able to conclude that exercise, a part of that exercise in 2012. So the question is this: international companies and also private individuals from other countries, they will have to see and they will have to continue to watch to see if there will be stability in that sector. It is that stability in the sector that will encourage further investment by foreigners.
When do you think that there will eventually be enough electricity supply?
A lot of factors. Principally, capital has to flow into the system. The banks are trying. They've done their best. And for me, at some of the interviews that I've given before, I've had to give kudos to two previous regimes for even venturing to do, to put it, the first induced consolidation of the banks. Because I remember in 2002, there are banks in this country that their entire balance sheet size was less than 20 billion. And with the value of Naira continuing to slide, you need more volume of Naira for a little bit of dollar. It's today that banks now have balance sheet sizes of ranging from 3 trillion to 2 or to 500 billion. They have more capacity to venture into funding these transactions we're talking about. 10, let's say 15 years before now, no banks will venture to say they want to fund all these power assets or all these oil sector assets acquisition. So I give kudos for government foresight, for what the role the central bank has been playing to ensure that the banks are able to build war chest to be able to meet up the challenges and the requirement of the economy. You must realize that I've always spoken about the infrastructure requires long-term money. You can only give long-term money if you have the balance sheet that can carry it. If a bank has, for instance, let's say 100 billion Naira, and you need to spend about 30, 40 billion in a sector, there's no way the bank can put that kind of money in a sector and wait for 5, 10, or 20 years. It's not possible. So the more we continue to grow the balance sheet size of the banks, the more the banks have stable money the more we deepen the economy, the more we'll be able to fund our infrastructural requirement. Don't also forget that some of these economies we're comparing ourselves with has been existing for over 100 years, some over 200 years. So these institutions has continued to grow strong in strength, in depth, in capacity. And if you look at the oldest bank in Nigeria that is locally domesticated, since when? The bank has done incredibly well in the face of the challenges that we are. And you must also realize that we continuously have inconsistency of government policies that has continuously affect the rate at which the economy reacts to such policies.
Why do you think that there's this inconsistency that you mentioned in government policy? Is it that those things are not well thought through, ab initio, or just what exactly?
It's a combination of so many factors. Sometimes people are in positions not out of competence, but purely out of political consideration. And when you put a man who is not competent in a position, what do you expect to be the rollout of policies from that kind of organization? So when the right person comes, he reverses. Because there is no time there is a policy that businesses don't react to such policies.
Imbibing the culture of energy saving is important in our bid to have enough power to get the country working again. What should companies like yours be doing to tell Nigerians, to get this across to Nigerians, that they have to play their own part in getting all of this working?
We are used to the attitude of free power. A lot of people don't pay their bills. And the more we meterize and you lose power when you don't pay, the more it gradually becoming our culture. When it becomes a culture that, look, if I don't pay, I won't get power. Then it becomes also easy for you to realize that you must save power. From the little you pay, you don't want to waste it. And that is why when you go to some countries, like when you go to London, for instance, you discover that some people, when they are leaving their sitting room to the room, they switch off the lights in the sitting room because every minute counts, because you are eating up the kilowatt you have on your system. So it's going to be the same thing here eventually. But as of today, because the rate of loss and the capacity to follow through for the collection is so huge. It's almost, in some places, it's almost about 40%. We don't collect almost 40% of what we push out. So because of this, people have not yet, because if you get something free, you don't care. If it is on, if it is off, you really don't care. But if you are paying for it, then you have to care. And I think we are moving gradually. It will take time, but we'll get there.
We must take a break now. We ask that you please join us again after the break.
It's about your world. About the extreme weather conditions and their effects on your existence. About your usual rainfall, the heat, harmattan, flood, desertification, and drought. The climate talks and politics, where government policies hit the mark and when they got it all wrong. Really, it's about you and your environment. New episode of Earthfire at this time, only on Channels Television.
Welcome back. Mr. Ayeni, how can Nigerian companies take bigger advantage of the local content policy in the petroleum industry?
We have been taking big advantages. Your question is belated because a lot of companies, you can see companies that are bidding for blocks that Shell and all the OICs are